Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and I am way behind on my questions. I'm really sorry, guys. I get them in scores every single day, but I've just been stupidly busy. But it's not a difficult piece of content to produce, and it's just lazy of me not to get it done. So we'll crack on with it while other things are going on. First things first, from Andy. I assume it's not Ghosty. Who asks, Preacher, recently I've noticed that my usual technique of queuing as a healer and DPSing, because I have immense heroic gear in LFR, has resulted in me being kicked more often than not, even though I am carrying the raid. Do you agree with this, or do you think it's douchey? Some of my friends have mixed views. Yeah, happens, doesn't it, man? It happens. First and foremost, my personal view on it is just one of the douchiest, twatty things I think you can really do in the game right now. It really is. And I don't know if you're looking for justification from me as to whether or not it's okay to do that, but if you are, then the answer is no. But I'll expand on it a little bit. You're making decisions for the raid and you don't know who's in the raid, right? You're taking it, it's an arrogance, it's a real ego shot, is to take it upon yourself to decide what's best for this LFR raid. You ain't carrying shit. You're not carrying shit. Those bosses are designed to die without much difficulty. So you're not carrying anything. The boss may die quicker, but what tends to happen is, in fact, you do a ton of DPS and you look swaggy and you want to flex away. In fact, I find most people who I bump into who are doing this, who are queuing as a healer and actually DPSing, are people who are sort of normal to flex geared. And I kind of hope in my heart of hearts it's people who have never really had better gear than others, and therefore do kind of like the fact that they can really not just beat the damage meter, but tremendously destroy it and get some sort of pleasure from that. I can kind of see why that would be attractive to players who've never really had that power before. But what we find is you don't know what the healers are like when you get in there, right? We don't know what the healers are like first and foremost. So you're making decisions for them, and they might be a bunch of really weak healers, which is fine. That's where the weaker healers should be. They should be in there to learn and to try and to make mistakes. Making mistakes in WoW is one of the greatest learning opportunities you can do. And with the support of a full team of healers, you're likely to get one strongish healer, maybe two, sometimes more, obviously. But you're likely to also have some very weak healers in there, as long as some very weak tanks and some very weak DPS as well. So what you're doing there is you're actually adding a strain to potentially very weak healers who don't know how to handle it. And I find that a huge problem. I think the last time I saw this was quite relevant was Iron Juggernaut LFR. I was doing Iron Juggernaut for some reason, and people were dying left and right, but this guy was boasting after Galacras that he was, why would you kick me? I am defeating all the DPS, look at my damage. And inevitably, people start supporting. It's like, yeah, this guy's top of the damage meter. We can't afford to let this guy heal. Such a falsitude, right? It's so crazy to think that the boss wouldn't die without this one-man army who's in here. But what I did notice is that people are dying left and right on one of the fights that actually requires a little bit more healing strength than other fights indeed. So people are dying. You're actually inevitably causing people repair bills as well. It's a really douchey thing to do. You're also, most often than not, I see the defense to this situation is, look how much damage I do, why would you want me healing? And that's so arrogant. That is so arrogant. It's a really awful attitude to take. It comes across to me as, what a dick. It really does. It really does. And I don't mean to offend you, Andy, but that's how it seems to me. Is what a dick. What a smug bastard, right? You have abused the system, which is all you've done. Is you abused the system for a faster queue to join a raid instance that you don't need anything from. So I don't know why you're there. You can't possibly make the argument, well, I'm there to collect some healing gear. I don't have any, because you can easily select that in the item dropping menu now. You can say, I want healing gear, even though I'm DPSing. So that's not an argument either. It just comes across real douchey when you're like, and then the question comes, ultimately, well, do you want me to heal? Like, God, guys, look how good I am. Do you want me to heal? Because I'm totally awesome DPS, yo. And that's when it really starts to look like you're a bit of a dick. You're a bit of a dick, and you're abusing the system and now trying to justify it in your own mind. Which I think is what you're trying to do, really, is just justify something. You had a gut instinct. When you queued in that DPS gear and you selected healer, you weren't thinking that I'm helping these guys out. I'm doing something for the raid. I'm such an awesome guy. What you're thinking is, I can't be asked queuing with the DPSs. I want to get in there super quick and then I'll just DPS and hopefully nobody will notice. The worst instance I've had of this is when 4 people did it at the same time. And ultimately the boss didn't die, obviously. And then we were left with the situation is, what happened? And everyone makes these wild assumptions until one of the healers was like, yeah, there's only 2 of us healing. And then we found out that, you know, the top 10 DPS contained 4 of the healers. And then all of them were arguing as to who should heal. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. I really recommend you don't do it, especially in the world of the boosted 90. People have just got weaker. Tanks are squishier. Healers are even weaker. DPSs have got weaker. If you're queuing for your role, I really hope you're doing your role. And there's really no reason not to do it. Really isn't. Next one rocks in from Jack. Hello to you, Jack. I play a Shadow Priest in a 25-man heroic guild. Currently we have around 28 people show up every raid night, meaning that several people get benched. My question is, how could someone in a 25-man guild secure a full-time spot when 25 is shrunk down to 20? Right now I'm pulling excellent deeps considering that I'm playing a Shadow Priest, but I don't feel like DPS alone is enough to keep me in a permanent spot come Mythic. What sort of things can I do inside and outside of raids to make the guild see that I am an invaluable asset to the team? You should be fearful for your raid spot. I've kind of mentioned this, I think, in a daily a long time ago, is that now is the time to shine. Being comfortable in your raid spot is a bad way to be right now because motherfuckers getting cut. And there's no question about that. It's going to happen. What you're more than likely going to see is guilds recruiting en masse towards, more closer towards Wall as a Draenor. Don't be surprised to see people joining left and fucking right, especially if you're in a good guild. You should be expecting this because people leave. They leave and they can't predict it. Big thing to remember is that nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. A famous story from me is one of the top DPS warriors in vanilla that I knew. A shining star among the casual guilds like I was in, who was guaranteed, as far as we were concerned, to be one of the best raiders in the universe, was cut when it came to 25-man raiding. He was out of there because secretly nobody liked him. And when they could get rid of the player, despite him being good, this is a good opportunity for guilds to cut the troublemakers, to cut the guys who have that ropey attitude. What I would say and recommend to you in response to your question is keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. What guilds don't want, or what tends to be frowned upon, is goody two-shoes, right? Nobody likes a goody two-shoes, especially the mockery we've made of them in Drama Time, who do things like going herbalism and mining and sending pots and shit to their bank. It's a real twatty thing to do. It really is, because you're kind of almost saying to the guild, at least from a raid leader and a guild master's perspective, from my perspective, when people started bringing lots of herbs, you're spending a lot of time doing stuff that we don't need to do. Most guilds are packed full of fucking money. Loads of money. The top 25 in heroic guilds are rocking millions of gold. We don't need your herbs, and it kind of looks like you don't realize that maybe you're a bit of a noob. Right? That's the thought process that goes on. If I have 1,000,000 G's in the bank and someone's like, hey, look at me, brah. I brought you 20 fucking herbs from the Dreadways. How fucking good am I? You can't possibly kick me. I'll say, yeah, I could do the same thing in 5 seconds at the auction house and it wouldn't make a goddamn bit of difference. And that's the attitude I have about that. When it comes to being in and out of raids, the best thing you can do is just not be an asshole. It really is crucial that you don't start rubbing people up the wrong way, because people don't want to raid with you. You'll give people the reason to say, yeah, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good player. Pretty regular, pretty consistent, but, you know, he's kind of a pain in the ass. And we have to cut people. It's kind of a business style of doing things. The guild would be better without him. It's because of his personality. He causes waves. He causes problems. I'm not saying you shouldn't stand up for what's right by any means, but those guys who are very contradictory, just generally like having a bit of a troll in chat. Really hilarious, right? As you start winding people up in the raid. Don't be under any fucking misconceptions that the people you're trolling for your amusement and the amusement of others isn't whispering the raid leader saying, dude, this guy's a fucking dick. Because I can tell you as a raid leader, there was barely anybody in my guild who didn't whisper me at some point saying someone was an asshole. If your name keeps popping up, that's when you're going to run into problems. If you are sticking to your DPS, constantly putting in 100%, always the guy who is there, ready to do it and going to perform, you're not going to get replaced. Because the guild can just say, oh, there's Jack. Jack's secure. Jack knows what he's doing. Jack's going to give us his fucking best effort. We're aware of the problem with Shadow Priest, but Jack's going to give us the best effort. And who knows, in Walls of Draenor, Shadow Priest might rock the fucking universe. So they're going to leave you alone. But really, right now, guys, those of you who are in 25-mans, expect a lot of people coming in and people looking for reasons to get rid of people, especially based on loot. Don't be under any assumption that people won't try and cut your fucking throat or knife you in the back if they think they can get rid of another clothy. They will. They will. People care so goddamn much about loot in this game. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing considering the amount of times gear has been reset. I hope that helps you out, man. Just don't be a dick. This is literally the best advice I can give you. Don't be a dick. Put in the performance in your raids. And don't start making a thing out of doing stuff outside of raids that seems really trivial. That really doesn't seem to actually help in any way. Last question comes in from Rachel. Rachel says, Preacher, you've been a massive supporter of VR Oculus Rift since you saw it. After the stuff with Facebook, do you change your mind? Are you not going to buy one now? I do like to put something that's rather current to gaming in at the end, because we do talk about that stuff a lot. In fact, a lot of my gameplay involves a lot of stuff outside WoW, so it is more relevant to me, and hopefully some way relevant to you guys who are also looking forward to this. There's two ways to look at this. One, Facebook has thrown $2 billion at Oculus Rift. Right? That's a good thing. Oculus doesn't seem to be a company that is, one, impatient, and two, wasteful with its cash. What we've seen is a lot of Kickstarter companies, a hell of a lot of them, just blow all the money they get. They way overreach their goals. They get tons more cash, and then they go and blow it on crap. They're one of those companies that suddenly has 8 ping pong tables or some crap in their office. And yeah, that bothers me a lot. Don't be under the illusion that I haven't looked at our second rig here and been really pissed off that it doesn't boot in 10 seconds like mine does and consider putting an SSD in it, but then you remember that doesn't actually benefit my little one-man company at all. It's to save 2 minutes on the booting of my second rig. But it's a thing that people go through. Believe me, that thought runs through your head, as you can imagine. What I do care about, though, and what has put me off, is the inevitable Facebook integration of the Oculus Rift, and that's something I really, really hate. I use Facebook barely ever. If it wasn't for the fact that I sometimes use it for preach gaming stuff, although I prefer Twitter, I've got to say I would never use it. I have a Facebook account. I'm not even sure why. I've got to be honest with you. I haven't updated it in months. Certainly don't post on it. I certainly don't read what people send me. Recently, I was invited to Andy's birthday party, Mr. Ghost, and people were organizing it via Facebook because amongst the masses, Facebook's quite an important thing, and people take Facebook very, very fucking seriously. I'm not one of those guys, so I didn't get the information as it was coming out. Ultimately, I had to tell people and pass them my phone and was like, don't Facebook me. Call me. Speak to me on my goddamn phone, because I just don't check in with Facebook. I don't do it. What bothers me is the Facebook integration. Because for people like me who don't really use Facebook, you might say, well, delete your account. There's certain things I use that require Facebook. Spotify being one of them. My Spotify account is linked to my Facebook. I'm sure I have a login that isn't Facebook, but I don't know what it is, and I never fucking log into it. But one of the problems is, Emma also uses my Spotify account. If she's playing Hearthstone or something on the other machine, she's using my Spotify account. So what happens then is, my Facebook is spammed with bizarre songs I would never listen to in my entire goddamn life. And people comment on it. The Facebookers comment on it. They're like, why are you listening to that music? I thought you were into this. Why are you listening to that? Oh, that song is so gay. And all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this is why I don't like it. I don't want people knowing about my stuff. I certainly don't want Facebook to turn me into a billboard for their products. That's what I really, really don't want. I certainly don't want my Facebook being spammed with, oh, Mike used his Oculus Rift today for 4 hours. Buy here. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Don't send that shit out there. Hopefully there's an option to switch it off, but inevitably Facebook has to be looking at some way of integrating this stuff so they can then advertise their own products through me. to use me to advertise their products in some way. Even if there's options to prevent spam messages or something, you have to believe that Facebook is doing this because they think it's going to be a product people are putting out there. It's going to hit a market, and they want people who are using it to be advertising it on their Facebook page. And that really bothers me. Will we have to have a Facebook profile in order to use the Oculus Rift? Are we going to have to look for hacks and whatever in order to use the Oculus Rift? Because I want to use the Oculus Rift. It looks fantastic. Graphics, etc. in gaming have really hit a stumbling block in the last few years because consoles just can't be asked to bring themselves up to date. They don't need to. We'll keep it limited. I'm a PC gamer. Every game I play is better than it is on a console. I have every option, and now I'm looking for the next big step like we used to see 10 years ago. And that looks to be the Oculus Rift right now. VR looks ready. Oculus hasn't rushed out its product. We haven't got version 1, version 2 as they keep upgrading it. They're waiting till it's right. And I like Oculus for doing that. What I don't like is Facebook's social involvement. Facebook wants people to use Facebook inevitably. And they're going to use the Oculus as some sort of advertising campaign. That's something I don't want, man. I really, really don't. I don't want Facebook involved in my fucking gaming. I really don't. Every time I see how many hours people have spent on fucking Farmville or whatever, oh, come on. I don't care what you do. But they're going to use it because the more people who are using Facebook and seeing what things happen via Facebook are going to like that and use Facebook more. I know I'm in the minority when it comes to my Facebook usage. I want it to die. I don't understand it, really. Well, I have nothing to post there because I only want to post things that are relevant. And I've got to be honest, guys, my day-to-day life isn't mega exciting, super thrilling, right? I come in here, I sit my ass down, I fucking rock some games, I try and entertain you guys in some manner, and what I don't want tagged onto that is Mike was using his Oculus Rift today, buy it here now. And people are like, what's the Oculus Rift like? Why didn't you reply to me on Facebook? Didn't you see my post? Hey, I posted on your wall because you've got an Oculus, tell me about it. Why didn't you reply? Because I don't check Facebook. You don't check Facebook, and then it just goes on and on. Balls to that, man. I don't want that. It's me done for this one. See you tomorrow. Bye.